All right, enough about Ronda Rousey. Let's talk about the winner, Holly Holm, the preacher's daughter. When Holly Holm announced her retirement from the sport of boxing, I did a farewell video here on YouTube, and I, talked about her career, and I also talked about how she's going to make her transition into mixed martial arts. And I talked about her age at the time. This was, what was it, like, I believe it was like 2 years ago. And she had signed with another promotion. It was not UFC. And I saw the stars aligned perfectly at that particular time. I mean, number one, she was already a boxing world champion, right? Phenomenal athlete. And she also had a kickboxing background. So, I mean, just when you add that equation, and she's jumping into MMA, and not just blindly, not just with her boxing and kickboxing background, right? Knowing the fact that, not like the MMA, men's MMA, female MMA fighters just, for the large part, are not that great of strikers. So I knew, just with that alone, she would defeat most female fighters, right? The question was, what did she have to do to become the champ? And I knew from the jump, from the time that she was, I mean, her trainers, before she even had one MMA fight, were already saying this girl could go to MMA and become the women's MMA champion. Now, that's just banter, right? I understand it. And at the time, I didn't think it all that serious, but they were already confident about that then. And she transitioned the right way, right? They didn't just throw her in there against like the best MMA female fighter. No, they started from the bottom and worked their way up. They started in some little Joe Schmo promotion. She got a couple wins there under her belt. Slowly increased the level of opposition. Went to the UFC, and it was a wrap from there. I mean, it was a wrap from there. I mean, really, of all her fights, she had one tough fight. That was her UFC debut, and I think she was nervous. And the girl she fought, in all honesty, has the second best hands in the entire division, in my opinion. So she already beat the girl who comes as close to her as possible. I forgot her name, but that girl has real good hands. She's not really good at anything else, but that's the one strength Holly Holm has, and it gave her a little bit of trouble. But in all honesty, I felt Holly Holm really controlled that fight, but she just looked out of her element. It was her first UFC fight, and she came out in the second fight against a better fighter than the previous fighter she fought, and she had a dominant performance. And then you saw what she did against Ronda Rousey, right? I mean, everything came into place. I mean, she had already been training MMA while she was still boxing as a world champion. She was sparring barefoot already for a long time. Okay, so the transition was just perfect, right? She was at Jackson's, and those that know about MMA know that Jackson's is one of the top premier, if not the premier, MMA gym in all of mixed martial arts. So she already had the best team, or one of the best teams, supporting her from jump, right? And they made the proper transitions into that, right? They did a great job, saying, okay, this is what he did in kickboxing, this is what we could use, right? We could take the high kick, the side kick, the leg kicks. We're going to utilize these, and I'm going to show you when we're going to utilize them in an MMA fight and against what type of fighter, etc. You were a boxer. These are the things we're going to take from boxing, and we're going to implement them here. The footwork, right? The nice crisp strikes, the straight left, right? I mean, just beautiful. The jab, for example, right? The lateral movement, things like that, just unbelievable. And then they implemented, MMA, the stance. The stance is different. Holly Holm does not stand. Her stance is not the same in MMA as it was in boxing. Completely different. I mean, everything from the stance to the balance to the movement, the type of strikes, when you can strike, right? just everything was just put into place together. It was, I'm sure it took a lot of work, and it was a 10-year process. You know, she's been training MMA for a while, and once she got full time into MMA, she put more time and effort into it. This was a long process, and I think this is something, one of the reasons I'm doing this video is because it has to be said, right? I think what I don't want is for some average boxers out there to get the wrong idea and then just jump into MMA and really expect to have some success here, right? She had a kickboxing background, a boxing background, and was already training MMA at one of the premier MMA gyms in the world. Okay, she was already training with John Jones before she even had her first MMA fight. I want people to understand this, right? And I think the destruction of Ronda Rousey was just implemented perfectly here. I mean, look at what they did. They got some great future Olympian, a male judoka, to go train with her, right? I mean, Ronda Rousey went for a hip toss, and in all honesty, I mean, it was almost effortlessly, well, with almost no effort, she avoided the hip toss. I mean, she was the stronger of the two. I think that was evident. She was the fastest of the two. She had the more superior reflexes of the two, right? If it was a pure grappling match, I believe, of course, I think Ronda Rousey would win. That's her element. But she couldn't force the fight into her element. She had one shot to win this fight. It's when she briefly took Holly Holm down. She never had full control, but it was similar to how she got Kat Zingano, but she was not able to do it. They trained for the armbar. They trained for that situation. They trained for the hip toss. They trained for her getting pushed against the cage. Right? You could tell they were trying to push her backwards. She wasn't moving back. She was using lateral movement. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful performance. The straight left, the elbow. I mean, just it reminded me of John Jones. The straight left elbow, that is, the straight left punch. The side. She landed a very nice side kick. Just, you know, a couple leg kicks, but and then of course the kick that ended the fight. It was just beautiful. I mean, the whole thing. She was just spinning Ronda Rousey all over the. I mean, Ronda Rousey spun against the cage. I mean, you could just tell at that point, you know, Ronda was just out of her element. The very first counter was a beautiful counter. I mean, Ronda Rousey had no idea what happened. She had no idea. I think in Ronda Rousey's head, she timed it. She had trained for this. She's like, I'm going to put pressure, and I'm going to throw this punch right here. I believe she went for a hook, and it was like a wide hook, and she got countered, you know. And I'll give her some credit. I mean, she did land a little bit on Holly Holm, but Holly Holm just used her movement, and you know, in the fight, you're going to get hit here and there, but for the most part, this was a complete domination. I don't think the rematch would go any differently, to be honest. I think in the rematch, Ronda Rousey would try to go for a takedown immediately, and that would be her best chance to win. She needs to take her down immediately and end the fight by submission. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Holly Holm will allow that to happen. I think she's going to get peppered on the way in. She's a lot stronger than her, and if she does take her down, Holly Holm's going to get back up. She's going to take her time, get back up. It's going to take out a lot of energy from her, from Ronda Rousey, that is. And here's the thing about Holly Holm. Okay, she's already gone 3 rounds several times. Her stamina's there. She did not appear tired whatsoever, while Ronda Rousey was completely gassed. It's also in her head that she could get knocked out. She no longer feels invincible. So Holly Holm has been defeated before. She's been defeated in the boxing ring, and she's come back and avenged her losses, right? But so she's tasted defeat before. She knows she's not invincible. Ronda Rousey thought she was invincible. She was convinced. The world convinced her she was. She's not. I think Holly Holm, man, if anything, We'll see where she goes. I would like to see her against Miesha Tate. Kat Zingano, it's a fresh set of fights. I would like to see that. Rousey used to take a break. That was a hell of a beating. Let's talk a little more about Holly Holm, right? Former pound for pound women's champ. Female Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year. And which is why I wanted to bring this up. There was a lot of talk about the Ring Magazine. And the Ring Magazine having Ronda Rousey on the cover of the Ring Magazine, right? And I think the title said it all, is Boxing Next, right? As if she was just going to just easily just walk over to boxing and conquer boxing and it was a wrap, right? I mean, keep in mind that if anything, all right, if anything, let's look at Holly Holm for a moment, all right? Like, I guess the part that got me was not really the part that got others, right? Instead of doing an article, instead of putting Holly Holm on the cover and saying, look, Holly Holm might become the first boxing world champion to win a major title in the UFC, right? Instead of doing that, it's almost like they didn't know Holly Holm existed. I didn't read the article. I didn't have to read the article, right? And keep in mind, a lot of the outrage is fake outrage. A lot of these people don't even read the Ring Magazine. They haven't bought Ring Magazine. Why would you even read that shit when you could get everything online anyway? But I understand that it's more about principle and all that, right? If they would have done a cover on Holly Holm, that would have been more appropriate, right? Because she is a former boxing world champion. But they wanted to get sales, man. That's really what it is. They wanted attention. I think they actually don't really like the idea of maybe promoting Ronda Rousey as a boxer, right? I think that's what it is. But I think what needs to be said, I think the point of this video is that this victory is Holly Holm's victory. And a lot of the leeches out there that never did any videos about Holly Holm, besides myself, I don't recall many doing videos about Holly Holm retiring from boxing. All right, good or bad, nothing. All right. Besides the, it's most people were saying things like, oh, this is a hand-picked fight, and they're just doing this bullshit to prove that MMA is better than boxing. And little did they know, a lot of them don't even know where Holly Holm was training. They don't know her background. They never even seen a Holly Holm fight. Okay? That's the reality. They never even seen a Holly Holm fight. You didn't see her in her prime. Holly Holm is not in her prime right now. Her prime was about 6-7 years ago. And her prime was in a boxing ring. She never got the accolades. She never got HBO. She never got Showtime. She never got any of that. She wasn't even featured on the undercard of one of the pay-per-views where they give us these terrible undercard fights. They could have put Holly Holm there. Because that's how we treat women in boxing. Right? That's how we treat women in boxing. She had to go to MMA to get some recognition, right? And when she does, and she defeats Ronda Rousey, many which did not even believe she could beat Rousey, right? Many which didn't even care, they wouldn't have batted an eyelash if she would have lost. They would have called her a scrub, and oh, there's Ronda Rousey beating another bum. That's what a lot of you would have said, okay? And what gets to me is a lot of you didn't even support Holly Holm, and now that she defeated Ronda Rousey, you want to take credit as if boxing defeated MMA. Yeah, the boxer did it. A lot of you didn't even know who the fuck she was when she was in her prime fighting in the boxing ring. Right? Holly Holm was already nominated for an ESPY, for Fight of the Year. She didn't win the award. Ronda Rousey won the award. Right? Think about that. Holly Holm did not win the award when she was nominated. I think it was more than once for Fight of the Year. Ronda Rousey did the year she was nominated. Look at what happened last Saturday night. All right? That's how disconnected boxing fans and sports fans are from women's boxing. That's how disrespectful we are to our women fighters in boxing. Right? But let me make this clear. This victory is Holly Holm's victory. That's who the victory belongs to. Right? She's fierce. She's strong. She's committed. You know, she has a will to win. She's a hard worker. She made the proper transition. Right? Made the proper changes to transition everything from her stance to the punches she throws, her punch selection, kick selection. She has phenomenal takedown defense. Did a great job doing what no other woman was able to do. All the women that fought Ronda Rousey, a lot of them in the top 10. She was able to pretty easily avoid an armbar, pretty easily avoid a hip toss. And there you have it. I mean, total domination. So, you know, a lot of you, if maybe this is the time to change and this is time to redirect your attention, right? You can't complain about Ronda Rousey being on the cover of Ring magazine and saying, why don't they put a female, boxer there when you don't even watch females boxing? Maybe we need to redirect our attention and give these female fighters in boxing a little more attention, because a lot of them are phenomenal athletes, right? And we shouldn't just stand by and allow dumb shit like a Ronda Rousey could just go to boxing and be a world champion.